Choosing the right font has a huge impact on how the readers experience a website. The right font can create a strong identity for your brand. Using a font that is easy to read is important. The font adds value to your text. It is also important to choose the correct color and text size for the font. So in this lesson, we're going to look at how to add different font size, font family, font color to our web pages using CSS. So if you look at the page currently on the screen, we have defined 3 different paragraphs, P1, P2, and P3. So in our CSS file, we would define the different font families to our different paragraphs. So the first paragraph here, we have the font family to be equal to this. So what these 3 font families mean is that CSS would automatically, when a user loads the page, make the font family for P1 to be Times New Roman. In a scenario where Times New Roman cannot be loaded, or there is an issue with it, or the font cannot be found on the system, on the server, then CSS would move to the second one. It will use Times, and then would move to Serif. So just like what we have in the second paragraph also, CSS would at first use Arial. If you can't find that, move to the second one, and then move to the third one. So CSS would always move in this order. The first one, if I can't find the first one, I will use the second font. If I can't find the second font, then I would move to the third one. Okay, so let's take a look at how these 3 paragraphs look like on the web page. So I load my page, and then we have this. So that you can see that the first paragraph, it's using the Times New Roman font. The second paragraph uses the Arial font, and then the third paragraph uses the Lucida console font, just like we have specified. So this is the way to add font family to your web sites or web application. Now, we should also look at one more thing that is very, very common in CSS. This is what we know as the font Google. So the Google fonts can be used and added to your website, and this allows you to use specified fonts and font families. For example, if you don't want to use any of the standard fonts in HTML, so you can use Google fonts. Google fonts are free to use, and they have more than 1,000 fonts on the internet in which you can choose from. So how do we use Google fonts? To use a Google font, all you need to do is to come to the head section of your HTML page. In the head, we have the link to our own style sheet. But before that link to our style sheet, we can add a link to Google Fonts. So to do that, all we need to do is to type a link. The link, we are telling the head that the link has a relationship to style sheet. We add the style sheet. Then we would type in the URL of the Google Fonts. So most of the time, the URL follows these patterns, fonts.googleapis.com. So even if I just copy this particular URL and paste it to the browser, then if we try to just say Google Fonts, and here we have it, fonts.google.com. So you have different fonts available for you in which you can pick from. And once you have seen the one you want to pick from, click on it, and then you can even download it if you need it on your computer, or if you need to link to it. If you need to link to it, you can read about the different ways to, and you can see they have the glyphs, and then if you click on download the family, you have the file to trying to download the particular font for you. Okay, so going back to our code, then you have fonts.googleapis.com, which is how to link to the CSS, then /CSS, then a question mark. So you want the family of that particular font we want to use. In this case, should be, say, for example, Sophia. So we have Sophia, and then we are done. So we can now come back to our style sheet. Let me just comment out all of these codes. We don't want all of them. So we want to apply this font, that is the Google font, on all of our page, all of the pages in our website. So let's apply that. How do we apply font? It's a font family to be equal to, then what's the name of the font? The name of the font is Sophia. Then come back here and type in Sophia. So we have Sophia, we can put that in quotes, then comma. It is always a good and standard way to have an alternative in case we couldn't load that particular font family. So we are using Sophia as the first. If we can't find that, then we take the second one. Okay, so we're done. Let's go back to our page and reload the page. Wow. So now Google Font has been added to our page and it has transformed everything on the page.